those we're going to observe that the future material was breaking. And that is what we would like to pursue. You take a look at this video in which I captured putting excessive pressure on a material. That material is going to break, and that's what we want to happen. We don't want our tissues to get damaged, to get lacerated, but our material is going to break, and it's kind of a safety mechanism. That's very important. Now we're going to continue talking on this topic, and we're going to talk about needles and the importance of needles. Needles come in different configurations. They're going to have different compositions depending on the chemistry that is associated to them. Some of them are going to have some titanium, some of them are going to have lack of titanium, and they are going to use some of the utilities associated with titanium. They come in three specific fashions that we see in our field. These are the most common ones. They come in many other fashions, different shapes, but these are the ones that we utilize the most frequently, with the 3/8 circle type of a needle being the most popular. It is very important to differentiate these needles depending on their point, how sharp, or what are they going to do. We have some that are reverse cutting. These are the ones that we utilize most often in our field. If you take a look at the needles that we're using on a daily basis, these are probably 95% of the needles are of this configuration. Then we have some needles that are very delicate, or very flat. These are needles that are being utilized in ophthalmology. And they're very flat, and they leave a very small frame behind those tissues. They don't damage tissues. And my favorite one, when we are working with very delicate phenotypes, very thin, very delicate tissues, are the taper points. And those taper points are going to kind of puncture the tissue without cutting, without damaging the tissue so abruptly like the other needles do. But what is it that we're trying to do? We're combining these instruments, and we're going to be operating with these instruments for us to fabricate now. When we take a look at the armamentarium that we have, I classify the armamentarium in microsurgery in three categories. The first instruments are the instruments that we use for cutting, like scissors, like microblades, and ophthalmic knives. We're going to have instruments that are going to help us manipulate tissue, like tissue holders and tissue elevators. And we're going to have other instruments like micrometers and needle holders. Now, the instruments come in different designs, their handles come in different designs, and some of them are perforated like these ones that are lighter. Some of them are ergonomically designed for us to get a better grip when we're holding them. But the ideal features in my mind are the following. First, they have to have a semicircular handle. Second, they have to be light. The weight, they cannot be too heavy. They have to be easy for us to close and approximate so we don't develop fatigue and we don't develop tremor in our hands. Ideally, avoid locking mechanisms that are going to prevent us from controlling the needle release at will. And ideally, we want them to be dark, to have a dark surface coating to avoid glaring and to avoid light reflection that is going to cause ocular fatigue of our eyes. The curvature of the handle is also going to allow us to apply a specific amount of pressure, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of the weight of these instruments and having to work or try to work with instruments that are very light in design. I just received this kit about a month and a half ago that is an extremely light material. It is dark, it meets all these characteristics, and I'm very excited that the industry seems to be going in that direction, which is very important for what we do. The finish of these instruments is also very important. We're going to have some tips that are very smooth. Some of them are going to have diamond coating or tungsten, which really tungsten, the material that we utilize, and some of them are going to be very rough. They're going to be serrated. This article published by Aberdeen back in 1990 was looking at the effect of the finish of the tips of our instruments on these delicate materials, and they were looking at 6-0 nylon monofilament switches, and they realized that some of these instruments are much more gentle compared to other instruments that are going to be much more aggressive, and they're going to end up damaging those materials. That's very important to know. When we are fabricating nuts, it is important to understand what kind of nut we are fabricating. symmetrical knots like a square knot is the ideal. And split knots tend to be much less reliable, at least when we're working with sutures that are macro sutures. Another variation is the surgeon's knot or the English knot that you're going to see in some of these videos later on, which was suggested by Dr. Shamala as a very passive way to approximate tissue. When sutures fail, it is going to be either by slipping, they're going to break, or they're going to be cut into tissue, or ultimately, we as practitioners, we are going to damage this suture material with our instruments. We're going to create kinks that are going to weaken them, and then they're going to fail. We were part of a study that has been accepted for publication in collaboration with the University Católica of Uruguay, South America, and the University of Michigan, looking at different knot constructions and comparing different diameters of sutures working with nylon. A machine was developed that was going to apply specific amount of pressure on these different type of suture diameters. And all these processes were documented with video and photography. And we're going to observe this video in which this very delicate suture material is going to break. And that breaking force was recorded. And the results are very similar to those produced by Burkhardt, in which we know that the smallest diameter sutures are going to be much more delicate, and the forces are going to be much less for them to break. And the different knot configurations are also going to play a role on the stability of this approximation of materials. Some of these biomechanical aspects that I would like to share with you that are important for us working in intramural surgery, for instance, are symmetry. And symmetry is important because it is going to dictate how tissues are going to come together. And these are some of the exercises that we do during our training in order to train and customize our eyes and our hands in order to visually start understanding the concepts of symmetry. And those concepts of symmetry come not only on the entry point and the exit point, but also in the distance between the sutures themselves. And we're trying to avoid, of course, asymmetrical disposition of these sutures. And the reason being is that when we have discrepancies between our entry point and our exit point, for instance, right here and right here, and we bring those tissues together, there is the risk of producing aversion or inversion of those marginal wound edges, and that is going to translate into scars. It's going to translate into perhaps a natural healing than sometimes open wounds. So it is important to understand the entry point and the exit point. And usually our entry point is going to be determined, as a rule of thumb, it is going to be determined by the thickness of the tissue that we're working with. It is usually going to be 1 to 1.5 times the thickness of the structure that we're working with. That is going to be the distance from the wound edge where our needle is going to penetrate, and we're going to keep the same distance when we're exiting. That is ideal. Our entry angle is also very important. We're going to try to become as perpendicular as possible in order to avoid this error when we come in with that triangulation that is going to start undermining, it's not going to leave behind robust tissue, it is going to compromise to a great extent the vascularization, perfusion, the support of that wound and the wound healing itself. Another question that I ask myself is, how many sutures are needed to close a wound? How far apart or how close? Are we going to use interrupted sutures or continuous sutures? Which ones are better at all? And to give some of these answers, we take a look at our experience, we take a look at the research that has been done to try to understand those principles and how we are going to answer these questions. We understand that every type of suture is going to have a physical component. We're going to be looking at vectors and forces that are involved that are going to dictate how these sutures are going to behave. Every time we are going to create a wound with our scalpel blade, there is going to be separation of those edges. And those forces need to be counteracted need to be neutralized with the features that we utilize. And depending on the extent, depending on the length of that wound, we're going to be applying additional sutures in order for us to approximate those tissues and get primary closure, which is our goal. That should be our goal. And those forces are going to be neutralized. And this is the goal of the exercises that we do when we're training. This is the goal of when we are applying these principles in the mouth of our patients in different tissues that we work with. Those root forces are going to be scattered together, and we're going to try to minimize superimposition, overlapping of the sutures, because that's going to weaken some of the tissue that is in between those sutures. We don't want them to be too close because that's going to compromise the vascularization, that is going to compromise the perfusion of blood, and it is going to ultimately compromise our closure of our wound. So we are going to try to avoid that proximity. And there is a concept that comes from the ophthalmologists that is called the compression zone principle. And it is a very simple principle that I would like to share with you for you to apply clinically when you go back to see patients the next time in your offices and at the school. Your entry point A to B should be larger than the distance in between the sutures that you are applying. When we have that type of relationship, we're going to have closure of these zones. However, we violate those principles and our sutures are too far apart in relationship to the entry point and the exit point. In other words, this is much shorter than this distance, as you can see here. When that happens, we're going to have openings of the wound, and we're not going to be able to approximate those tissues, and we're going to have trouble, especially if we're trying to achieve primary closure. So if we're going to be working with a shorter entry point and closest exit point, we're going to have a higher amount of sutures for us to achieve that type of result. So that is one of those principles that I wanted to share with you. When we look at continuous sutures versus interrupted sutures, it's important to identify the components of the continuous suture. A continuous suture is always going to have an anchor knot. That anchor knot is going to be the facilitator of the next stage, which is the development of the suture, which is the body of the continuous suture. And that can adopt different shapes, different fashions, as you will see later. And that is going to be approximating tissue alongside the wound edge. And at the end, we're going to use a locking knot, which is going to provide us security. And until we to tie this locking knot, we're going to have certain freedom as far as how to reposition this body of the suture. We have some studies that have looked at the geometry and the strength of these sutures, and we know that when we're working with continuous sutures, we have to put higher forces. That is probably the message that I wanted to share with you when it comes to continuous sutures. We have to apply higher amounts of forces in comparison when we're doing interrupted sutures. Interrupted sutures are going to be much more gentle compared to some of the sutures that are continuous. They're going to require higher amounts of forces for us to achieve that type of approximation. Basically, because we're looking at separate individual components that are going to be linked together, and we need to make sure that all those links are maintaining structurally sound and with even compression alongside the wound. So again, we can use these loops. I'm very friend of the loops. I like loops because loops are going to act like pulleys. They're going to reduce forces and tension, and they are going to also distribute those forces much more equally in order for us to achieve the results that we would like to achieve. I'm going to get into the next chapter, which is the chapter of therapeutics and applications. And when we take a look at applications, for instance, there are some principles that are still very valid. I do not know in Vietnam if you're still doing reusable grafts, but this is a procedure that is one of my favorite ones when I'm dealing with a very compromised phenotype. I like to go to the roof of the palate after I have measured the area that I need to work with. And sometimes I get a mix of connective tissue alone and then some epithelialized surface. I like to bring the material that I have harvested and I'm going to design the recipient side based on the size of the graph that I have borrowed. And then I'm going to secure it with sutures to approximate and have a good co-adaptation of the wound edges, and that is going to allow us to have the best perfusion and the best vascularization that we can obtain. We're going to be removing those sutures, and then we're going to be following up our patients, and this patient benefited from this procedure. She not only gained quite a bit of tissue, her phenotype was dramatically changed, but also we were able to cover some of that resurface. When we look at the harvesting of tissue, when we're working with magnification, it becomes a lot easier to perform these procedures because we can see what type of tissue we are removing. We can differentiate between adipose tissue and good quality connective tissue. We have a little bit more control as far as what is the amount of tissue that we're going to remove when we're going to utilize a subepithelial connective tissue approach. That is what we're going to be seeing when we're working with high magnification and appropriate illumination. It becomes very, very useful for us to be able to do different type of incisions that are customary of this type of procedure. Another type of harvesting of tissue is going to be that one that was represented by a Brazilian colleague a while ago, and it has been popularized by a practitioner from Italy, Dr. Zucchelli, who likes to de-epithelialize this tissue after it has been removed. And that is another way to obtain connective tissue. We're going to be utilizing some collagen in order to protect the wound that is going to be left behind, since we are removing literally a portion of that tissue. Once we remove the epithelium, then we can utilize that connective tissue. So there are a couple of ways to do that type of procedure. It is important to understand that we are living in a world that is being dominated right now by the minimally invasive surgical approaches, and that you can see in any type of medical field, from sports medicine to urology to obstetrics to plastic surgery, orthopedics, and of course in periodontology as well. We're looking at those concepts, and they are revolutionary. They have transformed what we do, because we are utilizing smaller entry points for us to do and perform those procedures that we used to perform when we didn't have this type of tools. So that is important to understand that perhaps our version of responding to the minimally invasive procedures is the tunnel technique. And the tunnel technique has, in one of the contributions, we are avoiding to have vertical incisions that we use so often when we were designing our coronally advanced flaps. It's all become a coronally advancement with the elimination of vertical incisions, which is probably the biggest contribution.